but going on to 9 and 10 for me at least. And this might be the hardest part about this because you could name about 7 players in these last 2 spots, but I personally have to give it number 9 to Damian Lillard and number 10 to Jokic. So the reason why I'll first go on Lillard. I mean, Lillard has proven himself in the upper echelon of guards and wings when he took his team to the conference finals a couple years ago. The big thing, and we've kind of like hinted at this, is that most of these teams, most of these players really that are battling for a top 10, top 15, top 5 spot in today's NBA and even in previous eras, they struggle to lead teams past the conference semifinals, to your Anthony Davis point, right? And I mean, Lillard has gotten past that. He was the bubble MVP, right? Just to add a little bit more to his resume. Like, he's just done a lot. I think it's Dame time. I think he's going into this year with a mission. I think there's not a lot of clarity outside of the LA teams in 1 and 2. And I think Portland is in a great position to make a push for the top 4, considering the off season by adding Robert Covington and Enes Kanter, right? And I think they added a couple other pieces, and they're one of the few teams that in the West that didn't get worse, but also got actually better and didn't just stay the same. So Portland could look interesting. So that's why I argued Damian Lillard. And I got to give it to Jokic because he did it the last 2 years. He's a young stud. He does it all. He can play make. He can rebound. He can shoot. It's just too good. It's just too holistically good. We've not seen anything like it to the degree of the talent that Jokic is. And I would be a fool not to put him in my top 10 just because of what he could potentially be.
I think I'm going to give Jimmy Butler credit for his performance in Miami this year and put him at 9. After seeing that, I want him on my team. I think he won the Minnesota breakup. He won the Philadelphia breakup. Just his mentality, his defensive ability, his effort, his scoring ability, his clutch aspect is enough. He's carrying that Miami team to the finals. Give him credit for that. I'd put him at number 9 in my eyes. And then I'll round out the top 10 with Jason Tatum. A little bit optimistic, maybe it's accounting for a little bit more development this year than we've seen, but I think he's certainly on that track. He's one of a few, the limited number of players in this league, especially young players, that are kind of on a potential MVP level player pathway, and I think he certainly is. You've seen his scoring ability. He's a better defender than a lot of players, and I'm going to give him at number 10. A couple thoughts on yours. I actually really like Damian Lillard, and he'd be my 11th honorable mention. He's obviously done a great job in Portland for a long time, and I'm a big fan. He's clutch. He can score with anybody. Good pick. Jokic, I think you're high on Jokic. Maybe I'm just low on Jokic, but I don't even know if he's the best player on his own team. He's way too bad of a defender for his size, for being a center, for me to justify him being in the top 10, and I wouldn't put him there. Especially looking at Denver, towards the end of the game, they want the ball in Jamal Murray hands, not Jokic.
So just to quickly refute that, I mean, you have Steph Curry, Luka Doncic, and Damian Lillard in your top 10. All 3 of those players are not defensive players, especially Steph Curry. And in specific, to your Jimmy Butler. Now, I love Jimmy Butler. He would definitely be number 11 for me. And I had a hard time justifying not to be in my top 10. But my fundamental thing is that he had to escape the West to do it. And I know this is going to be a super ugly opinion considering that, like, you know, he was right with the whole Minnesota issue, right? You know, Towns and Wiggins weren't, you know, pushing it. They weren't clearly like pulling their weight. And they were just talent, right? They didn't ever put in the work. So like, I'm not trying to say that their quote unquote legacy with Jimmy Butler is impeding him. I'm just saying he had to escape the West to really do it on a successful scale. I mean, that you could argue that that's because he found the right fit, but I mean, he had, you know, he had another through and through all-star in Bam Adebayo, who's one of the most versatile big men in the league, as well as Goran Dragic, who averaged almost 20 points in the playoffs, as well as Iguodala, who, you know, he is a Finals MVP to him, even though he's a little bit older, as well as a guy like Tyler Hero, who is so dynamic, and that's not even to mention who Kendrick Nunn, who's number 2 in Rookie of the Year voting behind John Morant. Like, I mean, they've got so much going on there.
Was Kendrick Nunn second? I thought it would be Zion. Was it?
Nope, Zion was 3rd. Kendrick Nunn was 2nd.
Interesting.
It's just because of the sample size that Zion played for the most part. People didn't like how little he played, so they didn't justify voting him higher.
Well, yeah. Well, at first I had Damian Lillard 11th. He was in my top 10. I know I have some, like Steph Curry is not a defensive expert, but he has his offensive characteristics make up for it, more than make up for it. And in the case of Jokic, I would just say it's not quite the case. And I would also say that it's more important for a big man to be able to defend the rim than it is for a player like Steph Curry to be able to, just because a core part of a lot of defenses is rim protection.
So I would agree with you on like most cases, but what about like Pau Gasol, right? Like, what about like there have been plenty of elite big men that don't necessarily play above the rim in that large, so to speak, way.
Was Pau Gasol ever considered a top 10 player? I'm not really sure.
I mean, it was Kobe and Pau in that sense that he was the second All Star. I mean, I don't, you know, it's hard for us to say was he considered a top 10 player. Maybe for sure. Like, you know, we weren't old enough to have formulated opinions, really. I mean, at that point to have like truly, and I don't know the specific research and time. I just think that Jokic has, and to your Steph point, right? Steph is in the top 10 for both of us, because, and really top 5 for both of us, because of what he did to the game. I think that Jokic can offer a lot to the game of basketball.
Thank you for watching today's episode of Full Court Press. To hear more content, make sure to subscribe or listen to our podcast on Spotify. You can also follow our Instagram and Twitter, which are listed in the description below.